you sure you want to do this?" Those were parting words of my friend Yarrow as he packed up a box and he left with some of the last of my possessions. It was the end of an era. I just finished college, and I literally gave away everything. Throughout high school, I'd begun paring down. When I moved away to college, I had a few treasured pieces, but at the end of that, I let it all go. All that was left was a photo album, a couple journals I had some writing in, and what fit in my backpack. Clothes, a tent, and away I went. At that time, I was a bit of, I guess you could describe, an idealist, an anti-capitalist, and I was out to really truly seek and try and find myself in the world. I wanted to connect to nature. I was born and raised in Calgary, the Northwest, the suburbs. We were the 10th house built and the 3rd house occupied in a brand new community. And all around me, I saw beautiful nature and fields get torn up and made way for houses. I knew that there was something more and beyond outside these city limits. And that's what I was after. That's what I was seeking. I moved to Vancouver, which led to connecting with a meditation group, which led me to California, and then to Salt Spring Island. Salt Spring was beautiful. It was idyllic. I was sleeping outside underneath cedar trees, not even in a tent. When it rains, actually, you're quite covered well underneath the cedars, as those boughs drop to the ground and they absorb a lot of the moisture that might even be in the air. Once in a while, I'd wear shoes if I had to. Otherwise, I was barefoot, eating organic food out of the garden, swimming in lakes, breathing in that glorious air. I remember my father and his wife came to visit me. Very critically, she says, "Well, it's all fine that you've run away and you've come here, but what are you doing to help the world?" For me, I was just trying to find myself. I was just trying to connect to a life that I knew was possible. Organic gardening. And at that time, I was really into meditation. I actually moved down to Washington, just across the border, and became deeply involved in Vipassana meditation. This is a volunteer-run organization, and you go and you sit and you meditate for 10 days. I did my first one, loved it, and stayed. I was there for 6 months, sitting and serving. I became the manager of the center, helping run the day-to-day operations. And that continued for about 2 years, both in Washington, but also traveling the world. So literally for 2 years, I spent anywhere from 4 to 14 hours a day with my eyes closed. Traveled to India, to Nepal, to Burma, to Scotland and England, and had this thread of meditation. It was wonderful. I was living a life of my dreams. I was able to go deep into who I was and really try and find myself. Met my wife, we weren't married at that time, but I knew. As soon as I met her, I was like, yes, this is the woman for me. We traveled, she joined kind of the meditation bandwagon. I wouldn't say enthusiastically, maybe somewhat reluctantly, but we enjoyed our journeys together. And during that time, I felt a big shift coming. Like, maybe I needed to do more in the world. Wasn't quite sure what that was or what it would end up being, but it turned out from those travels, we got pregnant and came home. And it was that time it was like, oh, now I gotta go to work. It's something I'd avoided actually for a number of years. So we came back to Calgary. My wife told me later, she was like, oh boy, she's like, I thought I was gonna be the breadwinner of the house. Here I have this traveling hippie husband of mine that he's not gonna provide. But it all worked out. I didn't want a job. Ever since I was 14 and contemplated the ideas of jobs, I'd avoided those. Wanted something that would give me more freedom and truly to be able to make a difference in the world. So I became an entrepreneur. And what I discovered, what I had learned through a lot of that time in meditation was all the changes that I wanted to see in the world, my mother-in-law was right. This idea that we need to be in the world to help change the world. There's this idea of yoga on the mat and off the mat. It's all very fine to kind of do your yoga and your meditation and be all peaceful and equanimous. But what happens when you step outside? You're in traffic, you're downtown. Are you able to maintain that equanimity, that peace of mind? Well, probably from all the practice that I had done, I was to a certain degree, but now it was brought to a whole new level. And my challenge was now to be in the world, to change the world. And what I have found that the most powerful and effective way that I know how to do that is to be an entrepreneur. Literally, to be an entrepreneur, I feel, means to help solve problems. There are plenty of problems in the world. And when you're an entrepreneur, you choose the path and the problems that you've solved for yourself that you see others struggling with. And then business just becomes about a transaction of helping solve other people's problems. And I believe we get paid in direct proportion to the amount that we help others solve their problems. I had to shift my perspective around money, which I thought was the root of all evil in our capitalistic society. But I've come to see money is just neutral, and it's a reflection of energy and of exchange. It's not inherently good or bad. It's what we do with it and how we interact with others. And we can use it as a tool and business as a force of good to create and help make the world a better place for ourselves and others. So be in the world to help change the world. And if you're all inclined to be an entrepreneur, look at your own life path and the problems that you've solved and see what others might be struggling with. And take that step out to create those solutions and use business as a tool to engage and connect and relate to others, helping them solve that problem and bring that value to the world. Be in the world to help change the world.